Hi guys, today's video is going to be all about my tattooed eyebrows. So this is something that I was waiting to do because I wanted to really make sure they were totally healed, get through the summer, get through a summer holiday, because that's something that people think about when it comes to tattooed on eyebrows, and really be able to give you kind of an even idea of how I feel about it at this point, a couple of months after the second session, fully healed, and whether or not I would do it again. So just to kind of fill you in on the background of this, I was a child of the 90s. I'm one of the people that overplucked and tweezed and did things to their eyebrows they should never have done. I'm fairly certain at one point I shaved the underneath because I couldn't be bothered to tweeze them. Seriously, how difficult can it be to pluck your eyebrows? It's not that hard. And I remember doing that, and I had the kind of one line of eyebrow situation. So there's a whole generation of people like me who've put people in business tattooing on eyebrows. So for me, I was just kind of trying to regain something that maybe once I naturally had or would have had, rather than create something that was unnatural for me. That is the number one thing that I would want to get across at the very beginning of this before I lose you completely, would be don't do any kind of semi-permanent anything to yourself that you are not prepared to be permanent, because you just don't know how something's going to react with your skin. You know, you could have you can have a piercing and it could leave you with a horrible scar. That shouldn't be a permanent thing. You should be able to take that out and it would heal. People have kind of henna tattoos and have horrible, people have different experiences. So when you have anything that is going to mark your body in any way, you have to be prepared for that to be permanent. So that was my kind of thought process. I just wanted them to look natural, but slightly defined, slightly filled in, and better than they did. I didn't want a new shape. I didn't want 2017 brows. I just wanted whatever my natural shape would be. Now at the same time, I went with my friend. I think there was something with her brows that they were maybe a little bit lower than she wanted them to be, and she just liked the idea of having a more arched brow. And so that's what she was going for. So we both went in with kind of different ideas of what we wanted and maybe different expectations. She was more worried about the pain, and I was worried about, is this going to look terrible down the line? And so I think perhaps because she was so worried about the pain, she hadn't thought past that to what if I don't like them. She just kind of thought, well, it's a temporary thing and it'll be okay. And she thought she would like them. So I'm going to kind of share both of the stories because she's asked me to do that on her behalf, because obviously the more information, the better in a situation like this. She found us somewhere near us, and we live up north. It's not so grim, it's not so expensive, and we found someone that would do it. I think it was £200, which is really inexpensive when you look at the prices that you can pay in major cities, and especially down south. You can be paying way more than double that. So I looked into it. We looked at different pictures before and afters on Instagram and stuff, and we were really happy. We said, yeah, we'll go for it. We went for our kind of initial conversation and stuff, and the person that did it we thought was great. She, number one, I think with anything where someone's doing any kind of cosmetic anything to you, you look at the person and you think, what do you look like? If you go in there and someone looks like Jordan, you might think, no, this is not for me. Me and my friend, the same friend, once went to a hairdresser's on independent occasions and came back with exactly the same haircut, which happened to be the same haircut that everyone in the salon had. There are some people that have a very set in their ways idea of what will look good, and so they only do that. They only do what they think looks good, and they don't really listen to their client. But this girl that did our eyebrows was great. She spent a lot of time talking about it. She said, bring me back pictures of what you think you like. And when we eventually went back to have them done the first time, she spent a really long time mapping them out. So basically, she kind of sketched around your own eyebrow within which she would tattoo the shape in. So for me, I just kind of asked for a filled in version of what I had. She did kind of insist on extending the arch a little bit up there, where I have a little bit of hair, but not really much at all. And that was the only bit that I was a bit nervous about, but I let her go for it because I thought, she knows what she's doing. At the same time, my friend was having something completely different. So she, as good as shaved off, her brow kind of came down to here, and she shaved off the second half of her brow, and then she extended it up here to make it a more arched brow. Now the shape looked great on her. It was completely face changing, so it's a little bit of a shock initially because you're like, oh my God, this is not my face. but it did look really, really great on her. She talked a little bit about the different colours that she could have, kind of warmer or ashier or darker or lighter. She put some against our natural brown, just kind of gauged whether or not she should go for a different colour. Also on the top up, she did that again and kind of slightly changed the colours that she'd used, so that's something to bear in mind. But the main thing that we came away thinking was, what happens if this fades? So in these little corners up here that I've got, and in this full-on different shaped tail of a brow that my friend's got, what happens if the dye doesn't take, or the ink doesn't take, or what happens as they are fading, because they do naturally fade? What happens then? Things that you don't really think about ahead of it, because you're thinking, well, it's semi-permanent, you know, you don't think about the fading process. And so suddenly we were like, well, I wonder what this is going to look like. So after the first session, we went away with our care packages and stuff. We got this tiny little vial of ointment. It was kind of like a Vaseline in texture. I think it was supposed to be that you were to leave your eyebrows completely for 24 hours, 48 hours, and then you could start putting the stuff on. I couldn't leave them. The first time they were on fire. Absolutely killed. It was hilarious because I was like talking like this, fine. And then the first time I scowled like that, I could have cried. It hurt so much. You kind of, again, you forget it's a tattoo. It's quite painful. And I will talk a little bit about the pain as well, but I don't think the pain is as important as this part. So we went home, we did all that, put the gel on and all those things. Now the first time I went through the healing process, I put the gel on really diligently. I followed the instructions perfectly, didn't try to get them wet. I did everything that I felt like I should do according to the instructions. And the scabs, as it scabs and heals, the scabs were getting caught up in this Vaseline textured stuff. And it felt like that wasn't the way to go for me. So the second time around, I just dry healed. I didn't use anything at all. They didn't feel as fiery on that first day, so I didn't feel like I had to put anything on them. And I definitely feel like they healed quicker when I dry healed them, and they didn't heal badly. So that is one thing. You know, if you've ever had a tattoo, if you've had multiple tattoos, you will know you kind of try different things every time and you find something that works for you. And for me, dry healing definitely worked better. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So the healing process itself was fine. I'll put some little snippets, or I will have put some snippets as we go along, of me showing you my crazy eyebrows, because I went from kind of crazy marker pen eyebrows to little flaky looking eyebrows to kind of much more faded eyebrows. So we went back for our second appointment, by which time we were a little bit nervous because you could see the individual lines. They were starting to look kind of a little bit bluish purple, which we'd been warned it could look like that when the scabs first come off, because you've got kind of a protective layer of skin over the ink, which can make the colour seem a little bit strange. And so as the skin naturally exfoliates away, the colour comes back through. That made sense to me. I was waiting for that to happen. It did come back a little bit because in certain areas where the scabs came off, it looked like there was nothing underneath them, and then the colour did come back. But when the colour did come back, it was kind of like a, you know, like an old school tattoo colour, like a bluish, muted, almost like a bluey purpley colour. Anyway, so we were worried about this. We went in, she said it was nothing to worry about. We went and had some, I don't know if we ended up having warmer colours. I think we did both have a warmer colour put back in when she topped it up, and she basically did the whole thing again. And we were hopeful that that was going to solve that problem. But another thing that we'd found as they faded out to this funny colour was that they didn't really fade to be much of anything at all. For me, it wasn't such a big deal because she just filled in the brow part, and then there's just this slight arch up here that was a little bit sparse and kind of like you could see slight marker pen lines, and not the finest of lines. It kind of does look like an obvious tattoo in these little corners up here, whereas for my friend, she had had something completely different. She's then left with the maintenance of plucking all of this lower tail area of her natural brow and filling this top part in that had been tattooed in every single day. And so that was something, again, that we just hadn't thought about until after the fact. So we had the second thing done. We were really hopeful that maybe this would take a little bit better. It would be a darker colour. It wouldn't be so ashy looking. However, I feel like we've both come away with pretty much the same results after the second appointment that we did after the first. After the first one, we thought, that's okay, this is what's supposed to happen. They do fade away to almost nothing. After the second one, it's better. I don't think I would be happy with my eyebrows if I had gone for a different shape. If I'd gone for something bolder where there were more tattooed areas than my actual brows, I don't think I would be particularly happy. Now, I don't think this was the fault of the technician necessarily. I think that there are certain skin types, and I've read about this, if you've got really oily skin, that sometimes the ink just doesn't take, or it doesn't take as well as it should, or the colour can be compromised. It can just not work out as well if you've got very oily skin. Now, it's impossible for me to say whether or not if I went somewhere else it would be different. Maybe when these have faded completely, I'll try somewhere else and I'll be able to update you with that, but I don't want you to think that I'm saying that the person that did it is at fault, because I really don't know, because this is the only time I've had this done. All I do know is that your skin type can affect the treatment. And so we've both got very oily skin, we've both had similar results. That might be it. If you've got very oily skin, it's something that you might want to bear in mind. Maybe even research and see whether or not there are specific technicians or specific methods of doing this that works better for oily skin than it does for dry. I don't know, but I'm just kind of sharing my own personal experience, which wasn't entirely positive. For me, it's not that big a deal because it is just this slight area up here that's a slightly more obvious tattoo. The rest of it is kind of throughout my hair. So in actual fact, I am kind of happy with them because they do look quite filled in every day. I've started putting a little bit of Benefit Gimme Brow through them just to make it look a little bit more natural, to give it a bit of a like gelled texture. And I don't really tweeze my brows. I'll show you one up close in a second. I don't really tweeze my brows because I like the look of the slightly unkempt thing. And I think that if you have them tattooed, sometimes they can look very clean and neat and rigid, and I don't like that. So I really haven't done anything with my brows since they've totally healed. I will kind of pluck the stray ones. I promise I'll do it after this video, but I didn't want to do that because I just wanted to show you where my natural brows would be. So I haven't plucked them in like months. So you can see that I don't really have to do a tremendous amount if I don't want to. Although I'm sure some of you will look at them and be like, oh my God, I absolutely would. So I think you can see here it's not such a big deal. This is quite a warm colour that's kind of filled my brows in. And then up here, where she's slightly extended it, you can see, to me, what appear to be tattooed on hairs. Thankfully, that's not something that I'm focusing on and I'm really kind of conscious of. If you've been so fixated on your eyebrows getting better or looking better than they do, having them tattooed on, especially if you're a bit of a perfectionist who likes things the way they like them or sees just ever so slightly something wrong, this might not be for you because you are leaving yourself in the hands of someone else who might not do it the way that you want them to do it. You have to be prepared for it to go wrong. And so although I wouldn't necessarily recommend microblading, I would say that for me, it's kind of okay. Like I don't mind them. I don't really desperately want to do anything with them. I never pencil in around those areas that look obviously microbladed. I'm just not that bothered. But if you are going to go for something, a completely different shape of eyebrow, if you are going to be really fixating on things, I just would stay away. Now, a little bit about the pain in the process. I know this is the longest video and I'm such a rambler, but a little bit about the pain in the process, because this will be kind of, I would imagine, similar from place to place. So I wanted to touch on this at the end and just kind of focus on my experience. But I know some of you will be interested. It's basically a little tiny knife. It's like a little device with tiny little blades. What the technician that I used, what she was doing was she would go over the areas that she was cutting into, and then she would use this numbing cream that was effective on broken skin. Now, I think if I was going to go ahead and do that again, I would probably get my own numbing cream, put it on first, wait until I was numb, and then start the process, and then she could put the numbing cream on as she wanted. Again, this is going to vary technician to technician, but that's what mine used. She used something that was on broken skin, and so initially you can feel everything, and it's not pleasant. It's not as painful as a regular tattoo. It doesn't go as deep into the skin layers as a regular tattoo does, but it's not a pleasant experience, and you can hear it in your face. You know, it's difficult to distance yourself when it's above your eyes. How everything works with the ink and stuff, I'm not 100% sure, and I feel like I should be, but I believe the ink goes in. Does it go in after the blades, or is it on the blades? I don't know. But I do have a little bit of footage of her actually microblading my eyebrows, and me trying not to cry on camera. So you may be able to see more than I can remember. But yeah, the actual pain itself wasn't that bad. The recovery time, it was annoying. It was about 2 weeks. You can't really go in the sun and all that stuff, which was not a great time to do it over the summertime. But the actual process of the eyebrows being done themselves, if you're dead set on it and you find someone you think is going to do it well for you, don't let the pain put you off, because it's not really anything too scary. If I'd been in love with them, I'd do them again. And to be fair, I still may, so we'll see. What else do I want to talk about? Sun. So in the same way that the sun can fade regular tattoos, the sun can fade your microbladed eyebrows. You should be wearing Factor 50 all the time. But you should be wearing Factor 50 all the time anyway. I'm totally converted to Factor 50 now, by the way. After I started using it this summer, and it made such a difference to the pigmentation that appeared, because I do get really bad pigmentation around here. I'm completely converted, and I really like the one from the Body Shop. But I used that every single day during a holiday in Las Vegas, and I don't think that my eyebrows were affected whatsoever by the sun. And it is like harsh, super hot, really, really sunny there. So that was another thing that I wanted to wait until that was out of the way to film this video, because I knew people had questions about that. If you do have any other questions, let me know, and I may do a follow-up, or I may do a blog post after this and talk a little bit about that with a Q&A at the end of it. That's probably what I'll end up doing. But hopefully, long and rambly as it was, this was useful for those of you that wanted to know my experience, and I will see you guys in my next one.